Wondering where all these exotic flowers came from? You may not recognize many of these flowers, but all of these flowers are a part of India's biodiversity. Can you guess the number of flowering plants found in India? About 15,000. This accounts for 6% of the world's total number of flowering plants. In fact, India is one of the 12 mega biodiversity countries of the world. Here are a few facts to prove it. India has about 47,000 plant species. This makes it fourth in Asia and 10th in the world in terms of plant diversity. We already looked at the diversity of flowering plants. India also has many non-flowering plants such as ferns, algae, and fungi. However, biodiversity is not restricted to plant life. India boasts of 89,000 species of animals. India's rivers, lakes and seas provide us with a rich variety of fish. Here is a comparison between the number of species in India and the world. As you can see, India houses almost 13% of all the species of birds and almost 12% of all the species of fish found in the world. Let's return to the plants found in India. Some of these plants and trees grew naturally, while others were cultivated. A plant community that has grown naturally without human aid is called natural vegetation. For example, deciduous forests found in India represent natural vegetation. However, fields of wheat and rice and orchards of fruits like mangoes and oranges are cultivated vegetation and not part of India's natural vegetation. Natural vegetation that has been left undisturbed by humans for a long time is called virgin vegetation. Some units of virgin vegetation in India are found in sacred groves. Sacred groves are forests that have been protected for ages by traditional societies. Some of the more famous groves are the Kavus of Kerala. These groves, known for their enormous biodiversity, are located in the Western Ghats. The Lavkintangs of Meghalaya are also sacred groves associated with every village to appease the forest spirit. Virgin vegetation that is purely Indian is known as endemic or indigenous species. On the other hand, plants that have come from outside India are termed exotic plants. Some species of orchids are examples of exotic plants. The Acampe is a genus of 7 orchid species distributed from tropical Africa to India. Biodiversity in a region typically refers to its flora as well as fauna. Flora refers to the plants of a particular region or period. Similarly, fauna is the collective term for the species of animals in a particular region or period. So, what is the cause of this huge diversity in the flora and fauna kingdom? This diversity is caused by relief and climate in a region. We look at each of these factors in detail. Relief in a region includes the land and the soil type found there. The features of land in a region affect its natural vegetation. That's why the vegetation in mountainous, plateau, and plain areas, or in dry and wet regions, is different. For example, the main vegetation found in dry areas, like deserts, is cacti and scrub, while tropical areas that get heavy rainfall have dense rainforests. Typically, the fertile area in a region is devoted to agriculture. And what happens to undulating and rough terrains? Well, these areas are very vital to sustain our biodiversity. These areas form grasslands and woodlands and give shelter to a variety of wildlife. Different types of soils provide the basis for different types of vegetation. For example, if you analyze the soil in the desert, you will find that it is sandy. Along with the dry climate, sandy soil is suitable for the growth of cacti and thorny bushes. Conversely, there is the wet, marshy, deltaic soil, like that in the Sundarban Delta. This soil supports mangroves and deltaic vegetation. Now let's consider hilly slopes, where there is a relatively deeper layer of soil. You will find an abundance of conical trees on such hills. The second factor that impacts diversity in flora and fauna is the climate of a region. When we talk of climate, we are basically referring to three aspects of a region, namely the temperature, the photoperiod or duration of sunlight, and precipitation. These aspects, along with the soil and land type, determine the type and extent of vegetation. For example, let's look at the conditions on the slopes of the Himalayas and the hills of the peninsula above a height of 915 meters. At this height, the temperature of the air falls. This fall in the temperature is the reason why the vegetation at this level changes from tropical to subtropical temperate and alpine vegetation. Here is a table that helps you map various vegetation zones to the temperature found in each zone, and resulting in various climatic conditions. For example, alpine vegetation is found in regions where the mean annual average temperature is below 7 degrees Celsius. As the temperature rises, the type of vegetation slowly changes. The second aspect of climate, photoperiod, refers to the duration of sunlight in a region. A longer duration of sunlight is the reason why the southern slopes in the Himalayan region are covered by thicker vegetation cover, as compared to the northern slopes of the same hills. In fact, you may have noticed that trees and plants grow faster in summers than in winters. This is because of the longer duration of sunlight in summers. Thus, the duration of sunlight received by a region is affected by the season. The other factors that determine the duration of sunlight are the latitude of a region, the altitude of a region, and the duration of the day. Did you know? In each hemisphere, the higher is the latitude, the shorter is the day in winters. Finally, let's look at the last aspect of climate, precipitation or rainfall. Areas of heavy rainfall typically have more dense vegetation as compared to areas of less rainfall. It is important to note that almost all the rain in India is brought in by the advancing southwest monsoon from June to September and the retreating northeast monsoons. This explains an interesting phenomenon. A comparison of the vegetation on the slopes of the Western Ghats shows that the western slopes are covered by thick forests, unlike the eastern slopes, where the vegetation is sparse. This is because when the southwest monsoons encounter the western slopes, they shed most of the water there. Consequently, there is little water left for the eastern slopes. That was a quick overview of causes of biodiversity.